President Muhammadu Buhari signs 2022 budget of 17.127 trillion naira. The president warns looters of NDDC that government will recover all. Financial markets in Nigeria in early closure as the year comes to an end. This is Business Express, the very last episode for 2021, and we are reaching you from Abuja, Nigeria's capital. I am Benny Adams, your guide. Good to have you join us on the business side of life, the very last episode for the year 2021. I will start by telling you that the 17.127 trillion naira budget of economic growth and sustainability for the 2022 fiscal year has been formally signed into law. Also assented to is the 2021 Finance Bill, which is critical to the successful implementation of the budgetary provisions. President Muhammadu Buhari, who signed the documents, promised to improve the general living conditions of Nigerians, as well as implement measures to moderate the unintended negative effects of his administration's policies on them.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
The continuing cooperation and commitment of the Ninth National Assembly to the restoration of a predictable January to December fiscal year as provided for in the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. The Finance Bill 2021 is particularly critical for the successful implementation of the 2022 budget. Its passage further underscores our firm commitment to regularly support federal appreciation bills with finance bills designed to facilitate their implementation. The fiscal year 2022 is very crucial in our efforts to complete and put to use critical agenda projects, as well as improve the general living conditions of our people. It is in this regard that I must express my reservations about many of the changes that the National Assembly has made to the 2022 executive budget proposal.
Now, Bala Zaka is a chartered accountant and an analyst. He joins me virtually from Lagos to look at the 2022 budget signed this morning by President Muhammadu Buhari. 17.127 trillion naira is the size of the budget, the last full year budget to be planned and executed by this administration. You are welcome, Mr. Zaka, and compliments of the season.
Thank you, and compliment of the season to all Nigerians globally.
We appreciate that too. Well, starting off, a load of reservations by the president, I must say, especially with the changes by the National Assembly on the budget. What do you make of his concerns?
Yeah, thank you for that excellent question. I really appreciated the concern of the president. But first of all, I appreciated the consistency that now, I mean, we are running a January to December budget cycle. That consistency is good and is worthy of praise and emulation, because it will help individuals and corporate bodies to plan their respective activities. So it will help them in their respective planning. As regards the difference, on the 735.8 billion naira, my understanding is this. When we are talking about political governance, we have the executive, we have the legislature, and we have the judiciary. Our understanding, or my personal understanding, is that the triangle of this leadership will work together in national interest. So whatever might be the concern of the executive, our hope as Nigerians and their children and their followers is that every adjustment that must have happened, whether from the executive or the legislature, is supposed to be in national interest. And because when you talk about a budget is future plan in monetary terms. My understanding also is collectively as Nigerians, we will follow everything up. We will follow the execution or the implementation. And where we need to express concerns or appreciation, we shall do that at the appropriate time.
Well, good to hear that from you. It's about harmony for national interest. Let's take a look at the oil benchmark. It was reviewed upwards by the National Assembly. What are the what ifs before the nation in case it tilts the way it's expected or otherwise?
Yeah, okay. Before now, we predicated the budget or the appropriation bill on a budget on an oil price benchmark of $57 per barrel. But to be fair to the country generally, and that source of revenue, the global crude oil price has been hovering above $70 per barrel. So increasing it to about $62 per barrel looks appreciable to me. Though I've always been on the conservative side, I've always wanted a situation where the difference between global crude oil prices and Nigeria's budget benchmark should have a differential of between $10 and $15. And the reason why I've always wanted that differential is because if the price goes so serious deficit that is unexpected and may cause pain, and when the price is above our benchmark price, of course, there will be surplus that will be diverted to other areas to take care of our issues, or will be used to breach budget deficits. But so far, the differential is still looking good. And because different economies have suffered, there is a high requirement for energy. So because of the high requirement for energy and the ramping of production, I still see the price of crude oil in the international market remaining reasonable, despite the confrontation of the Omicron virus, because we have globally understood how to manage the pandemic and to keep going as entirely global community. So that benchmark price increase to 62 looks appreciable, and it is within a tolerable threshold. We are not going to be taken by surprises.
Well, that's to say your conservative standpoint is actually what the National Assembly is doing. Well, recently, the World Bank warned against increasing the cost of power in a number of countries, with Nigeria inclusive. The 2022 budget was planned in a way that subsidies would be evicted for good. With this now, where are we headed?
Thank you. Actually, that question has two edges, and it has two edges, and this is the way I will explain it. I have actually been among those who are strongly against the removal of subsidy. I was against it yesterday, I'm against the removal today, and I may be against the removal of subsidy especially in the downstream product, for my reasons. And the reasons why I've always been against the removal of subsidy was because I felt we are a population of probably 200 million citizens, having strategic industrial sectors, strategic domestic sectors, and strategic commercial sectors relying on less than 10,000 megawatts of electricity. And because of that, I felt there will be a need for energy. And the only way we can get energy is by resorting to probably generators. And generators can only be driven by probably petrol generators or diesel generators. So to that extent, I felt if the cost of diesel or petrol continues to go high, then the production cost for materials will be very high. And then the price per unit will be very high and not affordable, considering the kind of way inflation has eroded disposable income. So I'm happy the World Bank on one side has said the cost of energy has been increasing, whether it is from electricity tariff or from petroleum products like diesel and kerosene and petrol. But I'm also concerned on one side where they said subsidy must be removed. I think in situations like this, World Bank is a global institute, but we also, or institution, but we are also Nigerians. We need to look at our peculiarities. But I will appreciate this government for wanting to do something about our local refineries. I think they have invested in trying to revamp 1 or 2 refineries. Let them remain on course. We shouldn't be deterred. And with that, I think we are going to remedy the pains. Even if the potential or the benefit will only be 1 naira we will be gaining from a liter of petrol, then when you consider the quantity we consume per day, and you multiply that by 1 naira gain, it will be in millions. If you can multiply that by a week, by a month, by 1 year. So to that extent, honestly, let us remain on course, especially on the refineries. Then we learned that the government is trying to revamp the Mambila project also, the hydro projects and the rest. Let them do something about that. And the plan to also do something about gas so that we can move the gas turbines and generate electricity. Let there be consistency in that area. I think with that, we shall be able to meet up with what the World Bank is saying and still be on a good economic course as Nigerians.
Well, Mr. Zaka, while the arguments for and against the removal of subsidy continues in the public square, we appreciate your optimism that government has remained on course and they will continue to remain on course. But then looking at the 2021 capital budget, it will run to March 2022 alongside the 2022 budget. What are the implications?
On that area, especially capital budget or capital expenditure, for those of us who have never had romance with the government or who have always been on the fence, there is this thinking within us or amongst us that most of the MDAs don't get monies released to them on time, and towards the end of the year, monies are quickly released to them, and to make sure they squash the money or spend the money, they embark on all kinds of projects. But in the case we're talking about capital projects. And my understanding of capital project is for capital assignments, like road construction.
Mr. Zaka, sorry to cut you in at this point. Talking about capital project and a lot of the expenditure that will be needed in 2022, more than 17 trillion naira. Where would the funds be coming from, and what will be the role of tax vis-a-vis the place of monitoring and evaluation?
Well, most countries generate their revenues from tax. And during your prologue, you said the Finance Act or bill has been passed. It is now an act. Generally, we are supposed to generate so much good revenue from taxes. And what are taxes? Taxes are compulsory levies, but they are also part of civic responsibilities. You know, so to that extent, I mean, we hope that the tax administration will be effective, and tax compliance will also be effective. But that can also be achieved if the government helps and cushions some pains of Nigerians, whether they are salary earners, whether they are investors. For investors, if the cost of energy is tackled, it will help them to improve their bottom line. And for individuals who are maybe salary earners, by the time we do something about inflation and the disposable income is very good, I mean, virtually everybody will be interested in paying taxes. Then they need to expand the tax nets towards the informal sectors. You know, let us do something about the artisans, the Okada riders, the vulcanizers, the hairdressers, and many others, even the pepper sellers, the vegetable sellers. At the end of the day, it is going to be in national interest. But let us also create schemes. If people need shops, let's make shop available to them. If people need sources of energy, if people need protection, if people need to be given consideration based on their income generation, let all those be done. If they are done, I think 2022 is going to be a fantastic year, knowing that it's going to be the year preceding the election year of 2023.
Thank you so very much, Balazaka, for sharing your thoughts with us at this particular point in time. And I'll use the opportunity to say Happy New Year in advance.
And thank you very much, and Happy New Year to Nigerians locally and in diaspora and the entire global humanity. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, moving on, as the year 2022 rolls in, the effective implementation of the 2022 Appropriation Bill for inclusive economic growth and development should be top priority. This is according to the Nigeria Association of Chambers of Commerce, Industry, Mines and Agriculture, NASIMA. The chamber, in a statement, commended the government for maintaining the budget cycle and pointed out that the real challenge is to see how the appropriation bill, which has been tagged Budget of Growth and Sustainability, positively impacts on the lives of the people and various sectors of the economy. Following the President's insistence of gender balance, NASIMA expressed hope that this major achievement will be strictly adhered to. And with the global effects of COVID-19, which hit economies around the world and Nigeria are not exempted, coupled with insecurity it is grappling with, the administration under President Muhammadu Buhari, the nation has recorded tremendous achievements in many sectors in 2021. Information and Culture Minister Lai Mohammed at a media briefing in Lagos reeled out the gains, and here are some on the economy.
Undoubtedly, one of the greatest achievements of the administration in 2021, and indeed in the past several decades, was recorded in the oil and gas sector, a sector very critical to the nation's economic well-being. The passage and signing into law of the Petroleum Industry Act, PIA, is a landmark achievement. Many have described it as the most profound event in the Nigerian oil and gas space in the last 20 years. Posting of a whopping 287 billion profit after tax by the NNPC. So the first time in 44 years that the corporation has recorded such a feat, which the NNPC attributed to aggressive cost-cutting measures, cost savings through the negotiation of contracts by up to 30%, improved efficiency through business automation, emphasis on commercially focused investment, and non-interference in the management of the corporation affairs.
And President Muhammadu Buhari has vowed to ensure that every kobo mismanaged or diverted during what he calls the serial abuse of Niger Delta Development Commission is recovered for use in service of the people in the region. Inaugurating the NDDC prototype hostel at the University of Uyo, virtually, the president also said all those found culpable shall face the law.
This ultra-modern complex, built and donated to the University of Oyo by NDDC, renews our confidence that the forensic audit, which has been completed and currently being reviewed for necessary action, had achieved one of its core objectives.
A total of 249.3 billion naira for October 2021 domestic crude oil sales by 6 multinational oil companies operating in the upstream sector will be paid in January 2022, says the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited. The NNPC disclosed this in its latest report on Nigeria's crude oil export and domestic crude oil sales in the month of October 2021. This came as the oil firm revealed that it would also deduct 270.83 billion naira from what would be shared by the 3 tiers of government during the Federal Accounts Allocation Committee meeting in January next year. It said the amount was its November 2021 value shortfall, which was as a result of what it spends on the monthly subsidy of petroleum motor spirit, popularly called petrol. On oil sales, it explained in the report that while the October 2021 crude oil exports of 50,000 barrels under production sharing contract valued at $4.18 million was payable in November 2021. The October 2021 domestic crude oil payment is expected in January 2022 by its joint venture partners. Let's now take a trip to the commodities market. Well, as the year draws to a close, the stock market is also gliding to a close. Numbers are still trickling, but generally flat. We shall bring you details in our subsequent bulletin. Well, up next is the global market with Neka Oko.
Global stocks dipped on Friday in thin trading as New Year beckons. In Europe, markets closed at lunchtime owing to New Year's Eve celebrations, which saw the market falling in the last trading session of 2021. London's FTSE slipped 0.27% in early deals. France's CAC 40 also dipped 0.32%, while Germany's DAX was up by 0.21%. In Asia, Hong Kong stocks led gains among major markets after also closing early for the year, with Chinese technology stocks in the city soaring. The Hang Seng Index jumped 1.24% to 23,397.67. Mainland Chinese stocks also closed higher, with the Shanghai Composite up 0.57% to 3,639.78, while markets were closed in Japan and South Korea. In the U.S., stock futures were mildly lower in early trading. The Dow Jones Industrial Average dipped 0.05%, S&P 500 declined 0.07%, and Nasdaq 100 fell 0.11%. African markets were mixed in early deals on the last trading day of the year, even as major indices looked to finish the year with modest gains. South Africa and Kenya both traded in negative territory, while other markets were bullish.
And still on the market, news from around the world. Tesla Inc. is recalling more than 475,000 of its Model 3 and Model S electric cars to address rear-view camera and trunk issues that increase the risks of crashing. The U.S. Road Safety Regulatory made a disclosure on Thursday, The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration has been discussing another camera issue with the automaker while probing the company's driver assistance system. The model years affected in the recall range from 2014 to 2021, and the total number of recalled vehicles is almost equivalent to half a million vehicles Tesla delivered last year. Around 200,000 Tesla vehicles will be recalled in China, the country's market regulator said on Friday. The U.S. electric vehicle manufacturer is recalling 356,309 from 2017 to 2020 Model 3 vehicles to address rear-view camera issues, and 119,000 Models S vehicles due to front hood problems, as disclosed by the federal regulator. Phew. What a way to end the year 2021. Well, that wraps Business Express this year. Remember to keep in touch with us, so do send us your comments, observations, and suggestions. Be informed that all previous episodes are available on YouTube on NTA's channel. See you next year, 2022.